It's hard enough in the real world without the eyes of a million viewers watching you to try and find the one. So we can only imagine what that's like when your dating life is broadcasted over national television for anyone and everyone to watch. Rather than imagine, we thought we'd have Bachelor's Ben Higgins actually tell us what it's like. Ben is best known from season 20 of ABC's hit series, The Bachelor, where he opened himself up to millions of viewers. Since The Bachelor, Ben has been keeping up with a number of projects, including co-founding Generous International, his iHeartMedia podcast, Almost Famous, 2 restaurants, and so much more. Ben, thank you so much for joining us today. We're really excited to have you on.
Well, hey, I'm excited to be here.
You are a busy guy. You got a lot going on. Tell us a little bit about all of that you have happening for you.
You know, it's interesting. There's a lot going on, and all of it's really good. But I'm fortunate enough to have been able to hire and bring on and surround myself with just incredible people. And so it doesn't all fall on my shoulders. There are great people helping out and making this stuff happen. And now, I just get to be the benefit of still being a part of them. They haven't kicked me out yet. So yes, that's everything is going really well. Obviously due to the pandemic, restaurants and coffee shops didn't thrive, but yeah. We're making it. And we're getting through it, and we've got plans in place to do that. And then all the other stuff is just really fun passion projects, and it's a good life. I get a lot of benefit and joy from what I get to do.
That's awesome. I love hearing that. Well, we're really excited to talk a little bit about love. Our listeners are, mostly engaged, so I'm sure you'll have lots of advice for them. So we wanted to first know, tell us a little bit about what led you to audition for The Bachelorette in the first place.
I would say, in all honesty, it was because I was in a pretty low spot in my life. I had just taken a job in Denver. I'd moved to Denver, having no friends, no family, nobody out there. And I was in my mid-20s. And, just because of the life I was in, I had just gotten broken up with. I moved out to Denver to prove to my ex that I could do it. And when I got there, I realized I really couldn't. I was struggling. And a lady at my office came in and had told me, hey, you're the only person I know that is single, the right age, and that would probably do okay on the show. And so would you do it? And I said I would, because I needed to shake life up a bit. So honestly, when I went on to The Bachelorette, it was with the desire just to shake life up a bit, not knowing really what could be next, or even expecting really what was next.
Yeah, it certainly shook up life a little bit for you. So what did you learn? What did you learn during that season?
I learned a lot about myself. I learned about insecurities I had that I was uncomfortable sharing previously to the show. I learned that I did have something to offer this world. That was probably my biggest takeaway. And I learned about other people's stories. What really cool part about the show is you get kind of in this own bubble with a bunch of people from all different backgrounds and all different parts of life. And especially during The Bachelorette, you have to hear people's stories because there's nothing else to do.
It's
and
true.
So you listen a lot. And for me, that was a huge takeaway. I think during The Bachelorette, that might be my biggest takeaway. It's just to listen more and know that the world isn't as maybe simple as I went into it thinking it was.
I love that. That's good advice. So what made you decide after that experience to do The Bachelor?
Well, first off, it's hard to say no.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
Yeah. Next, I really think for me, being The Bachelor was, it felt like it almost, I guess sometimes I go through life and if a situation or opportunity comes up and there's no negatives to it that I can see, then I say yes. And I think that's what happened with The Bachelor. There's really no knowing what it's going to look like or how it's even going to feel or what's going to happen. But when it's put in front of you, you just say yes, because it shook life up a bit again. And I didn't have anything else hold me back. And so I said yes to it. One, because it's hard to say no to, because it sounded exciting. It sounded fun, and it sounded like a good next step in life.
Yeah. So how did it feel, like having all these cameras following you around while you were trying to date people and, you know, semi-normally? Like how did that feel for you?
It feels weird.
Yeah, I would imagine.
It's not as odd. You get used to it. And it's honestly kind of weird once you get off the show, is you're used to people watching you, which has its own mental issues. You know, you come off the show and you're used to 100 people being around you at all times, and knowing when you're going to bed, knowing when you're waking up, knowing when you're going to the bathroom, knowing what you're doing, seeing you kiss. That's a weirder thing than even having them around, is the down of the show. And you get used to it pretty fast. I think the weirdest thing for me is, like, right now I'm back in Indiana with my family for a week, and life here is good, but it's slow. And this is kind of how I grew up. And so to have life sped up and to have all these people kind of on a show to date me and then have the world watching, that's odd. That's a big life switch for me, and it still is.
When you're home, it's got to be kind of the same thing, right? People recognize you, or does it feel like old times a little bit?
It doesn't really feel like old times. It's a little different now. People a little more interested in my life than they were before.
Yeah, I bet. So, like, what was it like sharing your dating and your love life with all these strangers?
You know, my faith is very important to me. So I went into it more saying I'm going to share my life with strangers. And I think for me, yes, I wanted love. I knew it was an opportunity to find love. I knew that this show could work. But for the most part, I was excited that so many people were going to be watching my journey with me, to see the ups and downs, to support, also criticize, to keep me accountable. And so, you know, sharing it wasn't a problem. I think I'd already gotten off the Bachelorette, where I'd shared some of my biggest, deepest feelings and emotions, where I was ready to share as much as I could with as many people as I could, because it felt like it was a healthy thing for me to do.
What about all those opinions? You said they kind of kept you in check, but was it weird having people have opinions on your love life?
It's tough. Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
Well, because, you know, you go from being just a regular citizen, trying to do your best to keep food on the table, at least I was, and I wasn't doing a great job at it. And you have your friendships and you date as best you could. And then all of a sudden you have the world criticizing you and supporting you. And it feels like the world. It's not the world. It's like 10 million people, which is a lot of people.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. And so things are heightened quickly. I look back on that time and I remember it being really hard, confusing. People were criticizing for things that I never knew I'd be criticized for, but also in a sense healthy, because I was able to find my support system. I was able to search for the truth in it all, and also to keep myself in check. So some of the criticisms were fair and they were right, and I was able to listen to them and hopefully become a better person because of that criticism. But some of them are just outrageously weird, and you can dismiss them pretty quick.
Yeah. So once you were dating off camera, what did you learn while you were on camera that kind of, you know, changed how you dated after the show?
Listen more than I talk. Ask the questions that are important to me, and probably be intentional. Dating's fun, and it should be fun, and it's exciting. But there's a moment in time in dating where you have to get intentional about what you want as time progresses. So I've said this now, and it was good advice given to me by a good friend, but when I was single, they just said, never stop dating. If you really want to find somebody, just date. Go out there, see what you like, see what you don't like. Sift it through, work it through, have fun with it, get excited about it. And then I think the next step is, once you find somebody you're intrigued by, invest into that relationship if you really want to see stuff work.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. So you're engaged now. How did you meet your current fiance?
I Instagram messenger.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very modern world love story.
Weird world. I was in Nashville and I saw her picture on the top posts and I said, that girl is beautiful. So, like any good human does, I screenshotted it and saved it for 6 months because it was a little creepy. And then if I waited 6 months without her knowing and I messaged her, it was less creepy. So that's what I did.
You're very patient.
I was very patient.
Yes.
Very patient. And I just messaged her and I said, hey, don't ask how I know you. It's not important right now. But if you're interested and you would like to know, please please message me back. And she did. And it just was great. I mean, honestly, from the start, it was fun. She understood me. I loved her pretty quickly. And I think it just flowed then into a natural relationship outside of social media. We didn't last on social media very long. We moved on.
That's adorable. I love that. So how different was the experience? Now you've been in the national, eye for so long. What was it like different being engaged when you weren't being filmed?
I think one of the biggest difference of dating would be that you get the freedom of choice on what you get to do for dates. The engagement piece, the difference is for me, maturity is knowing what I wanted. My fiance, Jessica, is empathetic and she's caring. And not that, from the show, my fiance wasn't, but it allowed me to really get to know those characteristics inside of Jessica. We got to walk through those and talk about them all the time and communicate about them all the time. We did long distance. And so we had to communicate. One of the biggest differences though is the fact that you do it in private. I think that's probably one of the only and biggest differences is you're dating in the privacy of each other, which adds a level of vulnerability and freedom of speak. On a show, you have to kind of sometimes watch what you say and how you say it and how you communicate, because we all mess up saying stuff and it comes off wrong or weird. I mean, I do it all the time with my fiance now. She goes, what did you mean by that? Oh, I guess I didn't know. And you watch that in the show, so you hold yourself back a bit. And I think this is just having the freedom to be open and to speak openly with Jessica.
I love that. So what's it been like? You guys got engaged kind of at the beginning of COVID, right? So have you made wedding plans? What's it been like planning in this weird world we're in?
Well, engagement's fun. And a week into our engagement, we had plans to get married quicker than we are going to. And we realized that even when we started talking about it, at least for me, it added a level of anxiety that was unhealthy in our relationship. I was like, I don't know if I want to get married in the midst of COVID. A wedding to me is a celebration, and it feels now like we'd be forcing it. And she didn't have as similar feelings initially. And then over time, she started to feel the same way because her friends were canceling weddings. And we were getting our wedding pushed back from it. And so now we're just enjoying engagement and we're celebrating engagement. However, we are planning our wedding for November of next year, which is a while away. There's reasons for that. Her brother's a baseball player, so he's going to be in season probably during the fall. And so we need to make sure it's past that. We didn't know what the beginning of this next year was going to look like. So it fit. It's not ideal for us. I would love to marry tomorrow. And if life comes to that, that's awesome. But we are wedding planning. And the cool part about taking a long engagement is we've been able to wedding plan slowly. It's not as much of a burden on us. It doesn't feel so pressurized. So we're having some really cool things to think through and some really fun details, even about our bachelor and bachelorette parties that I think if we would have rushed to, we never even thought of. And we're having a good time with it. And so I hear horror stories from wedding planning. For us, it's been really fun.
That's great. Yeah, some people get so stressed out. So you said you guys have been enjoying your engagement. What is your advice to our engaged listeners? How do they enjoy their engagement before they get too far into wedding planning and start stressing out, which tends to happen?
I think it gives you more time just to date. It gives you more time to answer those questions about what it feels like to be engaged and what is your wedding going to be like and when are you getting married? Those are fun questions to answer. I think my advice for any engaged couple would be during this time, though, to start those steps to show each other just how much of a teammate you are, a partner you are. Dating's great and it's fun. Now you know how each other feel. You know that you're making a commitment to each other that is a lifelong commitment, and it's time to step it up a bit, to even, I don't want to say give away and give up things that you had before, because I don't think marriage is about that. I actually think instead you start adding to life and you start expanding what it's going to look like to be partners and teammates and loves for each other. And you can do that during engagement in incredible ways. And one of the first big decisions you're going to make is how you're going to get married and when. And so be there for each other during that. Engagement's been really fun for us. I like it. I don't want to be engaged forever.
No.
That doesn't feel good, but we're having a really fun time with it. And it's fun to look across the table and see my fiance smile and get giddy about the idea of being with me for life. That's an incredible feeling.
Yeah, that's awesome. So tell us what you're most excited about for the wedding when it happens.
Well, let's take away the obvious, right?
Right.
Marrying Jessica is a big part of that wedding, and I am very excited about that. I'm most excited to marry her. But
that's the right answer.
Outside of that, the smaller details, Jessica's promised me I can have a bourbon and tequila bar.
Ooh, that does sound really nice.
So I'm pretty pumped about that. I like those two things. I'm hoping there's some leftovers to bring home. That's going to be a good time. And another thing is just I think for me, seeing my buddies I haven't seen in a while, my family I haven't seen in a while, all in one place, hopefully celebrating, hopefully dancing, laughing. I think that to me is going to be a joy-filled celebration. At least it should be. And if people aren't excited about it, well, that's their own problem. But I think having a joy-filled celebration and that represents love is something I'm ecstatic about.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. I'm sure most of our listeners already are following you, but let them know where they can find you on Instagram and find your different businesses.
Yeah, so one of the big things is I have to give some shout outs.
Perfect.
Generous Coffee. If you drink coffee and you like good coffee, and you like it shipped to your door, go to generouscoffee.com. That is the company I operate, and we give all of our money to nonprofits and social causes that are fighting human-facing injustice around the world. It's a great deal. So yeah, if you drink coffee and you're stuck at home right now, why not make it life-changing coffee? You like that?
I do.
Tagline. Higgins.ben on Instagram. And if you're out there listening and you have a small business, a podcast, if your church, school, whatever needs apparel, I do have a company called My Fan Threads, and we do custom apparel that's print on demand, so you don't have to carry an inventory, and you just sell it from our website, and we'll make it and ship it for you. That's a great way for small businesses to get some apparel out there. So that's another cool thing. And the Almost Famous podcast is a big deal to me. It's on iHeartMedia. If you're in Denver, come to the restaurants, Ash Cara or Mr. Oso. And I think for now, if you do all of those things, then I'll be a big supporter of you.
I love it. So everybody go do that. Make Ben happy. Ben, thank you so much for joining us today. This was so fun chatting with you, and I appreciate you sharing all your advice.